in a world full of misery, rage, and insomnia, there's a place you can go to just unwind. All you have to do is take a long walk into the mountains, and just past the black house with the secret garden, you'll find a small cabin. Inside that cabin, you'll find the Hole in the Wall Book Club. So now that the dream catcher's hung and the fire started, we invite you to pull up a chair and join the Losers Club as we explore the world of slurping on people's necks and serious men. Hello and welcome to Hole in the Wall Book Club. I'm Anthony.
This is Alex.
And we got it right on the first take. Yeah. Cool. And I've been Stephen King, and you've read the book. All right, yeah. So today we are ending up Salem's Lot. Thank God. Might be a little spoiler of my general opinion of the book.
Best part, though. There you go.
That made it worse. Okay, yeah, let's get into what actually happened, and then we can rant for a while. That's what I'm going to be doing. I don't know. Did this last bit turn the whole book around for you, make it a masterpiece?
No.
Nah.
It just showed that it should have been the book, probably. The ending should have been the book.
So, real quick, going through what happened. The next chapter was them leaving town. It's several short sections. They leave town. There's a bit where Mark wakes up. It's just Ben and Mark at this point. There's a bit where Mark wakes up and seems to pretend to be asleep because it seems easier, then falls back asleep. And then they come back to town. I can't remember if it's the next day, like the morning, or if it's within a couple days.
Yeah.
They do a few things in town. Ben burns his manuscript. Was this before or after the description of the town? I can't remember which order this happened in.
I think what, like, as far as the going-ons in the town, like, independent of them, that's after.
Okay, cool. Ben burns his manuscript. There's a bit where he throws the snow globe against the wall. And then they bury Jimmy.
Oh, yeah.
Drag him out and bury him.
Yeah.
And then they leave.
Didn't they do Jimmy and Mark's parents?
Right. Because they finished burying Mark's parents because they only had him covered at that point. Then they leave town. And that is where our prologue would have happened. They've left town. There's a bit more here. We're going to get the prologue, and then the epilogue is them coming back after that.
Yeah, and then the last bit of 41 is just
best part of the book.
It's basically how the town functions now that it's completely turned. They talk about some families calling out-of-town family members in, jumping them at the porch, pretending some of the emergencies happening, getting people to kind of come in, the cops or stuff, and then when they get there, getting jumped. And so
it's
nothing suggested they were turning any more people. This was just, feasting on people by getting them in there. And I think, like I might have hinted at in the last one, this is what the story actually felt like. This was the idea it seemed like King had. Mm-hmm. It kind of seemed like what he thought was, what happens, because we just came from Carrie. Small town, girl has powers, here's how this town gets obliterated, and, is now a dead town. This seems like the exact same dead town concept with vampires, and that was the cool idea, and he had to set it all up.
I wanted this to be the beginning of part 2, or even the beginning of part 3. Like, we came out of this big confrontation with Barlow that was honestly straight up a letdown. And then we immediately hey, here's some really spooky, cool concept stuff, and we're done.
It's because Barlow didn't change anything. That's what made him so insignificant. That's what made this whole thing so insignificant. We're being given an ending in which the whole town's overrun by vampires. Good guys absolutely lost. But we're supposed to go like, oh, well, man. Well, I mean, it's King, so it's not always been meant to be like super positive at the end. But You beat Barlow and you accomplish nothing. And Barlow was a character who was more talked up by the team than he was actually impressive.
Yep. We did miss a tiny bit when they went back to get Jimmy. And I think it was implied it was just Ben here. I think Mark was, I can't remember Mark even came with. Mark's freaking out still. But the only thing left to Barlow was his teeth. And I think they jittered a little bit. And there was this bit where Ben's like, did we even kill him? I hope we did.
Yeah, and he says that it almost feels like when he's like grabbing them and messing with them for a bit, it almost feels like they kind of could snap at him. I think that's specifically what they make. So, yeah, that's when he tosses them.
Then, we get this. We get the fate of a couple more people, and for the purposes of the Serious Man competition, at this point we decided unless we definitely know they turned into a vampire, we're just going to assume they're dead. So when it says they jumped someone, unless we get a scene later where that person's now a vampire, we just put them down as dead. So we lose a couple people. Like we hear how Mabel died. It's really good. And it's one of those things we can't do justice to. It's really, like, this bit was great, which pissed me off more.
It was the actual creepy town, not all of this pretend, not all those lot sections that were sort of pretend creepy, where it's just people doing stuff, and then the lot ends on someone getting visited and turned. And
Yep. And then we finish up part 3, and we have the epilogue. And the epilogue starts with news clippings from a journal that Ben was keeping. And in the epilogue, they go back to calling them, was it the tall man and the young boy? I can't remember what.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah,
Tall
the same
man
thing
and the
they
boy,
did in the prologue. Yeah. We get, like, just various news reports of Salem's Lot happenings.
Car wrecks, there's blood in the car, but all the people are missing. You know, it's probably like they're probably just yanked by vampires. Like some vampire stood in the road, freaked them out, they wrecked, yanked them all out. And it's just a bunch of stuff like that.
Yeah, people we've never heard of.
You reading, no, it's probably vampire shit. It's doing that, it's sort of the same vibe as all of the outsider perspectives of Carrie about Carrie.
Right.
But in this case are people who just go, oh, that's strange. We'll investigate that. Oh, that's strange. We'll investigate that.
Yeah, we get like a family that moved into the old farmhouse where we had our farmer family, and then moved out because they kept getting freaked out by hearing noises up in the hay attic.
Once again, the ending is suggesting a more interesting, creepy story than the book actually was. If this book had, say, been... Well, let's not even go with just like you were saying, part 1 is all that stuff, and then part 2 is... Let's just say the book was actually dedicated fully to this concept. It would have been far more interesting to have seen something like Ben coming back to the town, but instead of it being that coming back because he got spooked in the attic and then watching the town crap out the way it did, and then this, instead be coming back to a town possibly already infested and hiding, and then him slowly figuring it out as the outsider and ending up with the story with a lot of this stuff. It would have been a lot cooler to have approached the story from these clippings instead of ended on these clippings. It would have been kind of cool to have read a story where it's like, this happened. Well, that's weird, but okay. Oh, this happened. That's weird.
Like, okay, keep the same. What if
like we introducing heavily Barlow, and then initiating that you know it's going to happen? It was the problem. Instead of the town slowly being revealed to be weird to you, it's, oh, what's that weird Barlow guy? Well, there's this. What was his name? Straker. There's Straker. Oh, he's awfully thin, long, and pale, and can carry weight. That's That wasn't creeping it on me. That was giving away the entire thing immediately.
Right.
And that drove me nuts.
Like imagine for a second, we keep the same motivation for Ben to come to the town. But when he gets there, it's like 2 nights from being this epilogue state of the town. And he's dealing with that. That'd be great. Like, we got 500 pages of setup to a 50-page confrontation to 30 pages of really good outro.
There would have been far more tension if you actually had to play around with guessing who might have been against Ben and who already were. Because you would have had him entering a town where a good chunk of people may have already been turned, so that became the guessing game. But this constant, the stink, that sheen they have because they've been bitten that reveals them, like, it's actually kind of weird, but in trying to use classic tropes, he actually destroyed any of the kind of methods they would have used to have hidden amongst everyone. Like, yeah. They don't like the sun, but just like, say, Dracula, when he puts on that top hat and walks down the street on a cloudy day and blends perfectly in, that would have been just enough people turned who come out on cloudy days or something to have had them out and about, so you thought they were normal, but instead was actually a little creepy when you caught. There was no investigating. This was a book that was not a mystery. It was you watching it unfurl. It was a doomsday you had to watch as it was going to happen and knew everything that was going to happen.
Yeah, and like it's almost like King at a certain point realized, like, oh, you know, them being completely destroyed by the sun is a problem, because we have that whole speech from Matt about how, like, he can hypnotize people to do his bidding during the day, so we're not safe. And the only thing that really came out of that was Sue's mom wandering into the hospital with a gun, getting taken down by a unnamed, I can't remember what they're called. I was about to say intern, but that's not right. The orderly. Taken down by an unnamed orderly and then dying. Like, did you, it's like he tossed out this idea to be like, oh, here's some tension that doesn't matter. Like, that whole bit could have been cut and it would not have changed a thing. It was wild. There's so much of that. Like, oh, here's some clever thing. I'm going to do it in the most blunt way possible and it won't affect anything.
The fate thing also doesn't help either.
Oh, yeah.
With the Susan, I saw her on the bench, fate. And then I looked Mark in the eyes, fate. Because the reason why is that they don't really win, but he was fated to meet them. So
Right.
what you're actually given is a story where what you're really being told is it's fated to be this bad. And for this particular... Basically, you're kind of told it's fated that Mark and Ben were going to eventually come back to a vampire-infested town and burn it down.
Yep. Yeah, I guess we should finish up what actually happened here because we haven't gotten to that. After we get these articles, Ben and Mark basically go near Salem's Lot. I think they're staying in Portland.
Yeah.
And they keep getting the paper until they see another article mentioning Salem's Lot. Then they're like, yeah, let's do it tomorrow. And they start a fire. We've been seeing this coming. The whole time.
The part 3 is, they drive through the town. It's page after page of, hey, the Straker store is still up. Nothing's open. Everything's run down.
And it's good. And it's creepy.
Yeah. Do people still visit the Marston house even though, Barlow's dead because it's like an epicenter? Da, da, da. And then eventually they work their way up the hill to about where they guess the fire started the first time.
Yep.
And then they light some dry stuff up.
They light a cigarette.
Yeah, well, I mean, they toss it in and it describes like this dry brush. And then it's supposed to like work down this hill and catch. And then, how's it?
They basically, Ben goes on this thing to Mark about like, tonight we'll burn them out. It'll kill some of them.
Oh, yeah,
it won't kill all of them, but they're going to be hastily hiding for the morning.
There's no way we would agitate them as much as we could doing this.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're going to come back and we're going to try to kill them all. And then they walk away and the book ends.
Literally the end. I was excited this book had a literal the end at the end.
Yep. And like, what happens next is the book I want to read. Even with how much I disliked this book, if Stephen King put out a sequel tomorrow that picked up right where this left off, I'd read it because that's a good story.
Probably.
And honestly, he's as much shit as I give Stephen King. He's gotten a lot better over time. I am wildly... I cannot comprehend why this is on the top of so many lists.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's just... it's definitely the second thing he wrote.
Mm-hmm.
At least, second thing that got published. Because that's exactly what it reads like. It's like, okay, I want to do a vampire ideas. I want to have this town, but it's just not well organized.
The pacing is just... This is probably one of the worst paced books I've ever read.
Easily.
Yep.
It doesn't know when it wants to... I don't know if he really wanted the book to be longer. I don't know if he thought he had to build more tension and he was failing somewhere, but that dead center in the middle of the book is the biggest chunk of wasted time.
Mm-hmm.
You spent so much time repeating.
Yep.
It was just the team in the hospital redux over and over and over. We've gathered together, guys. Now what are we going to do? Well... How about that plan we've already announced 13 times before where we get stakes and go do something about this? No, everyone calm down. Let's be rational men.
Yep.
Okay, we've been doing that. Now when are we going to prove whether or not these are vampires? Well, Mark's here now, and he says they are, so I think we're good now. So
don't worry, we've been verified by a young child. We can do it. Every plan they make immediately falls apart.
And not even because Barlow's 15 steps ahead like they suggest, but because they just can't find it in themselves to follow through. Right. Every time they have an idea, they are immediately distracted as if everyone in this team has a hardcore case of ADHD.
Yep.
It's like, hey, let's go take this out. Hey, that's a convenience store. You know what? I think I'm going to stop in here just to see what's happening and then completely lose what you're doing.
I'm going to get real nerdy for a second. It is the D&D heist problem. It's... Hey, let's spend 3 scenes meticulously planning out our next move. The moment we start the plan, everything falls apart and we do something else. Why did we bother with those scenes? But, like, at least in a role-playing game, you intend for the plan to happen. It's so much of this book is so many just physical page count is planning things that immediately fail in meticulous detail. It was like, why? I think it might be to reinforce the, like, look how much we planned and Barlow still twisted it on us. To, like, make this a cat and mouse chess thing. Except the reason their plans change is almost always happenstance.
Slash themselves.
Right.
Like, they either choose to just turn into a blubbering, unstable fool, and suddenly they can't handle what they're about to do, so it completely flops, or King's absolute fondness, and this kind of continues through other stuff, but his fondness for characters just having epiphanies, trains of thought that come out of thin air in order to jar the story in a direction, that does not, I do not believe, leaves King anytime soon, and it's kind of a thing he likes. And that technique of doing that is also in here often. Right. But it's not quite as belligerent as, say, Father Callahan's, "You look like the guy in my closet. Loss of faith." But it's in subtler other ways, but it keeps happening, where something gets massively deterred in the book because some character who's sort of in charge of the story flow just has an epiphany of something. I mean, look at the absurdity of the, oh, right, that's right, there was a billiards table in the bottom of the boarding and chalk, and I'm not sure this, like, we're kind of given the impression that there's fate flowing through all of this, as if maybe as long as Barlow's beaten, that's a win in the good guy side.
Yeah.
But it feels like this is one of those instances where beating Barlow is what the book's telling you, but doesn't actually have any real world in-book repercussion.
Right.
This is kind of the issue, I think. It's kind of the mild issue, I'd say, with King stuff in general, which is, and this book does, I think I mentioned about the epilogue, where we get all of the outside around the town stuff.
Right.
I mentioned this before the podcast. Why does no one ever react to any of that?
Right.
Like, you have Carrie, which I guess is a sort of a short burst temper tantrum, and then it happens. That makes sense.
Yep.
It's done.
That had a whole commission.
Yeah, there's nothing you can go in and discuss. But yeah, people were interested. There's institutions talking about it, researchers. We're now given a town that's completely taken over by vampires.
The Institute.
Yeah. The incidents they describe in the journal and stuff around the town and keeping track to make sure when, well, Ben's keeping track to make sure to know when it's being active again and all this stuff around the town. But every one of those things ends with investigating. Police will be investigating. Investigating what? They don't clearly... It's so bizarre to have such a catastrophic event, Vampire Town time, and just go, not a single cop drives in, and if they drive in, you can presume, based on Chapter 41, they're killed.
Right.
If a cop goes into a town, gets killed, and doesn't show back up, then that guy's wife or something calls, the other cops... There's just so many obvious...
The department's going to be looking.
Yeah, there's so many obvious threads that are going to have people eventually figure out this is a vampire town, so that to keep up the front of the town's dead, no one goes there anymore. It just doesn't even...
Yeah.
Like, someone's going to find this out. Like, this is absurd. You can't just take a whole town, turn it, and everyone just goes, stay away from there.
And the vampires
no
are
one knows
obviously
why.
leaving the town and coming back, because, like, there's reports from neighboring towns of, like, people think there's packs of wild dogs because sheep keep getting slaughtered.
Yeah.
So these vampires are leaving town. Like, there's people who have died and gone missing, and it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, they even talk about the baiting the relatives in and killing them and stuff.
They're all going
You
to...
think they would know?
They're all going to Parkins to be like, hey, you used to be the sheriff at Salem. And he's like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't go there. It's fine.
Yeah, actually, that's kind of... Do they explicitly point out when he leaves?
Yeah, he leaves right before the Barlow fight, because that was one of their last stops, was stopped at the cops to see if they can get him to help.
No, I meant, do we ever see explicitly him? I'm in a car. I am driving away. Not that
I
he
don't
says he
believe
would.
so, but we know he makes it out because in like the first chapter, one of them talking about Salem's Lot was an interview with him, so he does get out.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
Man, it's... Do we want to give our ratings first, or do we want to do the Serious Man first?
We can do the rating. And then
Okay.
we can do the series.
So you asked me to double check, because it's been a while, and I immediately forget everything we talked about the moment I press stop on the podcast.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'm just actually a robot. Alex is the only one here. I'm a neural net. Alex said that. So, the gig's up. Sorry. No, but...
There's a hook. Talking to a neural net.
Out of 10, you gave Carrie a 6.5. Because you're an asshole who uses 0.5s in a 10-star system.
Yep.
I gave it a 7. So, what are you thinking?
Well, I think we had determined that the way we were interpreting 1 to 10 was like 5 was the break. Like below 5, you're going bad down to worst in 1. And
that is what you said, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Like 4 is my, like, there's certain people I'd recommend it to. 3 and below for me is like, I'm not recommending this to someone.
Oh, and we also need to pick our people for our teams.
Yep. Yeah, we do. And you get first pick this time.
But as far as rank, 5.
Really?
I think. Maybe. I mean, that's kind of giving leeway. I mean, if I'm just purely personally driven, probably a 3.
I was in a 3. I was in, like, I
leewayed it up a bit.
I'm going 3-5 because I can think of maybe 2 people that I might recommend this book to, but it's such a specific thing.
That's kind of where I was.
And it's mainly people who like
pretending.
bad books.
Yeah.
So
I was kind of pretending that leeway, but personally, yeah, like a 3.
So I'm going to go 3.5 plans that never came to fruition out of 10. That's what I got.
That works. That sounds pretty brutal, but I mean, this book.
Yeah. There's some really good scenes, but the pacing kills it for me. Like, up till the end of part 1, there was good tension building, and then it's like something happens, and then you just reset all the tension and build it again, then reset and build. It
also just has when you're done, like, not that every book has a point in the sense that it was like, point you've learned about, but this book didn't really have a point. Like, when you finish a book and you enjoyed it, you're kind of like, that either told a story that resonated, there's some point to you, not necessarily that there's some guiding line in the book. You finish reading this and you're just like, I wasn't spooked. This wasn't a good mystery. It wasn't, it was just as if you picked up a guy's story about a thing that may have actually happened, but the guy who wrote it was just a mess.
And Ben was
just kind of writing things.
Ben was like a non-character. Like, he had this like tragic dead wife backstory that I believe was hinted at like twice and talked about twice.
Used almost exclusively.
Didn't matter.
Yeah, it almost used exclusively just to pair with Susan so you could double dip the awfulness.
Right.
And then the other part was we kept seeing him linger on the Marston house as if it bothered him, but we were confronted with the vampire part, but you're still kind of wondering. There was no real Ben closure, basically. He came to the town because of that weird experience he had. He was going to write this thing, which I feel like was a way for him to get this off his chest.
Right.
He instead encounters a vampire problem. The town gets wrecked, and now he has a vampire problem and is working with Mark.
And then he burns his manuscript.
Yeah, and while I can see why, here's this serious situation, it overrides my goofy getting this off my chest moment. It felt like one was turning in the other and you should have piggybacked those emotions off of it. But you never had any investment in the initial concept because it was nothing but him staring at the damn house.
Right.
That was it. That was the only... The entire 2 first parts are you just watching Ben crank it to the Marston house. But no mental, like, why does this torment him beyond that he saw that thing? What was the thoughts he had that made him come back? Did he think writing the book was going to cure him of remembering this? You're given no reason to care, and then it turns into a vampire problem, and then Ben now has no reason to care. That's the story of Ben. Discover Ben, never find a reason to care about him, and then he discovers a reason not to care about himself.
I found our moral of this story. It's, if you have trauma, do not go to therapy or try to discuss that trauma, or it will get so much worse and all your friends will get killed by vampires. Yeah, I figured it out.
Yeah,
there we go. It's just like Sue and his relationship bothered the hell out of me. It was one of those relationships where you can tell how in love they are because you are told how in love they are, and that
it was fated. And it's like she is explicitly fated, turns into a vampire, so that he can feel terrible when he has to stake her. To state that their meaning was fate implies that her fated death and turning is meant to make Ben suffer.
Right.
Because they were fated to meet, so that it would be fated that it meant something to him when it happened. And it's just like, it's like you said, you want to read the next book, because all this book does is justify that Ben is to be molded into something, to do something about something. But no, not really.
That's what it comes down to. There is no climax.
Yeah.
This is tantrically staring at the Marston house with no payoff.
Yeah. You just got your king cock ring on, just seeing how long you can keep it at full mast.
Oh my
without
God.
ever fucking doing anything.
Stephen King, if you were listening, I would do literally anything you would ask me if you will put out a book about a spooky cock ring. Anything. Okay, cool. Let's jump back in. No, yeah, there's no climax.
Yeah.
It's all like building up tension to then reset and build up more
Telling
tension.
you you're experiencing tension. That's the problem with this whole book. It's telling you.
Yep.
When you're upset, when you're scared, when you're spooked, when you're bothered. And when it's written well, then it kind of does come through. But for way too much of this book, it is you just being told how, like, really on the Van Helsing part, for example, when they stop.
Yep.
That couldn't have been more force fed if it had come in on a conveyor belt. It was just like, wow, Matt's saying a bunch of stuff. Doesn't he seem like Van Helsing? And you're like,
I think that might be the defining line for this book.
oh.
Does he remind you of anyone? Yeah, Van Helsing. Even if it was just, does he remind you of anyone? And then cut the scene? It would have been too much, but still would have been better. It was like, did you need to? Did you?
Get it? It just feels like, get it? Get it? You see what I'm saying? Get it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Although I guess Van Helsing dying isn't normally... I mean, he died naturally. Is that supposed to be some sort of positive for him?
I guess so.
That's the thing. You can't... This book also kind of destroys ways to understand it. Like, the way vampires are presented, the way people behave, the way fate is talked about, everything in this book is shown, but you don't know how to understand it.
Yep.
You don't know what saying something's fated even means. You don't know if, like, based on how this book's written, am I supposed to go, well, man, that's great that, Matt died naturally because he wasn't turned, and there's something wholesome about dying from a natural...
He's not
like,
wandering the United States with a mark of Cain.
Yeah, it's like, I just don't...
Poor Father Callahan.
Are you supposed to read that kind of weird shit into it because he keeps making reference to that kind of language? Or is he just half-assed using that kind of language on a regular story?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's a point in The Shining. Like I said, I don't know what the point is.
So my theory that I have made up recently is that The Shining is all prepping for one single event.
Have we been when I'm meeting Salem's Lot?
I thought you were saying The Shining as in Fate.
Oh.
So that's where I'm jumping off.
You having the book The Shining sitting out right in front of us on the table.
Yeah, I'll get rid of that.
It makes me keep reading the title when I say.
No, I think that the theory I'm going to wildly work towards supporting is that it's all building up for the stand. Like, The Shining is just molding people and events to lead to the stand.
This feels standish, I think, more than even the... Well, I mean, yeah, it's ultimately kind of describing The Shining, but this even feels more than The Shining psychic element, purely from the standpoint. Not that there's not the standpoint.
That was good. That's good.
Not from necessarily what people can do in that book, but that cosmic good evil thing. You could get that vibe from this book.
Because, like...
You kind of get the feeling that's what he was kind of poking at early in this. Like, Carrie has that sort of Christian but kind of twisted element. This book just straight uses vampires and shows some sort of positivity to, like, faith and some primordial good. The Shining will, well, when we get to it, but based on other sources, kind of have a more ambiguousness to it. But then we go to it, and we start to see that going back. But once you get back to the stand, it almost feels like it's the end game of this earlier like good evil we see than the later where it's...
And a little spoiler here
a little
for
more
other
psychic
books.
And alien and...
Spoilery for It and Dreamcatcher, which, if I'm spoiling It for you, how have I done that? But a big part of my, like, the Shining being a cosmic force that's guiding big events is I think you could probably make a case for Pennywise being a necessary thing to happen, because that ends up leading to the sewers or the water reservoir being closed off because of everything that happened in the sewers, which in Dreamcatcher saves humanity because it delays the aliens' plans. So
this is my issue, though. Is it just an infinitely fated thing that still always kind of sucks at the end? Is that what King's?
Yeah, I think that's.
I feel like the universal system in King's universe is that everything blows, but it's laid out just enough that evil never wins.
Right.
It still all blows. Evil just never wins. Which, from what I've heard, because I've only read the first few books, another slight poke, I guess, spoiler-ish stuff is the Dark Tower series.
Yeah, I've never read any of them.
And
I know people are going to yell about
that. And which we probably won't do.
I think, say what you want to say, and I think we should just directly address what we've talked about with that.
But Dark Tower, essentially, the supreme overarching story has that essential feel to it. Good keeps just keeping crap at bay. And that's the overarching point of the entire setting. Which I guess is King implying evil by default wins unless good struggles.
That kind of feels like
the good men do nothing kind of.
That's what I said. I think
statement.
I assume Stephen King loves. I said Reservoir Dogs. That's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Catholic people, the Catholic shooty movie.
Boondocks.
There he is.
Boondock Saints.
I think King would love Boondock Saints. I get that feeling. I think that whole vibe is big with him. That good needs to be actively good.
Yeah, which is weird because he likes punishing the most openly good behaving people in the story. It's usually the guy who bumblefucks to a degree through the book that lives. The guy who's yes, good, dies, a third of the way through.
Gets Father Callahan, as they say. But yeah, I guess directly addressing the Dark Tower thing, it just doesn't sound fun to do it to me. Not in reading them. I don't know enough about them to know whether or not I like them. I feel like knowing that kind of stuff from the Dark Tower makes the theory crafting a lot less fun.
Yeah, I think we said when we did the very first intro thing to this podcast, our goal was to piece together all of the King verse and sort of lay out our interpretation of the way everything matches together and how the universe works. Dark Tower doesn't necessarily explicitly ruin that, but it does give an explanation that is so abstract and conceptual that if you read them and then use them, they kind of actually destroy theory crafting because they don't answer all the questions. They actually just kind of make all the questions pointless.
Yeah.
So we're probably not going to do them.
So
because it'd honestly be less fun. I think I read up to the third or fourth book, The Doors. So I'm aware of the fact that the Dark Tower does some sort of literal universe crisscrossing, and essentially Dark Tower kind of actually undermines several key things that show up in King books by kind of making the cosmic part meaningless and making it far more conceptual and abstract that it's this tower and no.
So yeah, basically, if we ever do Dark Tower, it'll probably be in a different project. So just want to kind of,
and it won't really be worked in as the world building. It might just be a side thing where we go, okay, we'll look at this. Yeah.
But I think from there, we get there to talk about the Serious Man competition. So finish that up.
Oh yeah.
Unless you have any more comments on the general book.
No, I think it was pretty clear.
I think everything and much more than needed to be said has been said.
Yeah.
So what it comes down to is that gamble I took of betting on the death of the main character screwed me because you won by, I believe, 2 points.
Yeah.
Which, had I said he survived, I would have won by 1 point. Because of Mabel Wirtz.
Right.
I said she died. You said she survived.
Right. That's true.
Yep. Other than that, I'll tweet a picture of the finished board. So if anyone wants to look at the exacts there, but you beat me by 2, so I have to present to you.
You were not a very serious man.
The most serious man trophy.
Did you?
Gave him a little racket. And it's actually a Coke, but I ripped off the label, so it looks like a beer.
That actually worked, yeah.
I'll tweet a picture of that. I was given this trophy for free when I went to the trophy store. I was like, hey, what is the cheapest trophy I can buy from you? And she handed me this one, which you can see they started to engrave it and then ripped off something. If it falls apart on you, just re-screw the bottom. It does that sometimes. It is the jankiest thing ever, and I'm very happy with it.
We happen to live in a town that's small enough to have a trophy store in the first place.
Yep. Yeah. We live in a perfect Salem slot town.
We
It's
do.
about the right
Yeah.
size. It's stretched out enough.
Yeah, that's when we do these books, we come at them with a very special knowledge, because King might, appeal to certain people in more suburban or whatever series and describing these kind of town crap. And you could write a King book in Hedgesville easily.
Yep.
Just without any.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could just wake up and the neighbor is a vampire. It would not be that surprising.
It's in Appalachia, so you can include Mothman.
Yeah.
Good to go. Perfect. Oh, I don't know how I'd feel about King writing about my Mothman. All right. Well, congratulations. I want to give you a handshake. You can go as firm as you want. I'm going to go limp because I'm not serious. There we go. Perfect. You are the most serious man. I hope you take that to your grave, sir.
I guess that means...
Stand team?
Oh, yes.
You get the first pick.
Well, we had a discussion about this. You had mentioned someone, but you had given them sort of a time frame.
Yeah.
Plucking someone out of the book, but plucking them out of the book at a certain point.
Right. Like, I would like to retroactively state that my first pick of local heartthrob, Tommy Ross, is before he got hit in the head with a bucket and died.
Yeah.
I don't want a dead local heartthrob, Tommy Ross, on my team. It's going to be a bummer from the start. So, yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, so I believe mine was going to be Father Callahan before that goofy faith loss thing.
Okay. That's good.
So Super Priest
You don't
Callahan.
want to go double Sue team?
No, this...
If you get 3 Sues, they merge into one 2-star Sue.
No,
okay.
I needed a diverse team. It's like
That's fair.
dungeon delving. You need one of every class, kind of thing. He'll be my priest, the original Sue, kind of the
Void Speaker.
Yeah,
That's a good title.
The level-headed one, sort of my Spock, if you will.
All right, so we need to make a Darkest Dungeon mod.
Okay, you can almost make enough lore, like peel enough of lore from all these Stephen King books that you could almost probably make like a really cool town, like village game. Dude, I mean, Silent Hill directly makes references to Stephen King by naming the roads after his stuff. But if you actually made a town game and then had like multiple weird things happen into it, made it sort of an exploratory Kingiverse game, that actually sounds like there's an app on.
Hey, Stephen King, if you would like to talk about someone to write a PBTA game based on your properties,
That'd be very doable.
I could do the hell out of that.
That'd be very doable.
Oh, think about all the custom moves. When you encounter this... never mind. Okay.
Very awkward ways to implement the shining and the gaining of shining points or whatever.
Shining points. Oh, okay. Tokens.
Yeah.
It's an Institute reference. There we go. Who am I going with? I thought you were going with Mark. That was what I was feeling.
I kind of felt that at the beginning, but...
So my top pick was going to be Weasel Craig. Because I wanted some levity on my team. But I realized that I already have local heartthrob, Tommy Ross. So I'm going to go Mark.
Is this pre-Lost Himself Mark?
Yes. I would like that version.
Early Rational Mark.
Yeah, I'd like a computer Mark.
Yeah.
Ooh, maybe I take that Thunder kid who pissed himself. We never heard about him ever again, by the way.
That's not surprising.
Yep. I scoured all the children's scenes, like the bus scene with the attack, and yeah, he's never mentioned again. He was probably included in the and other children, but
probably
never name dropped again. So that is.
Do you think there's a board like this somehow in King's like he has up when he's writing this book, so he doesn't forget half the people he makes up on the spot?
Absolutely not. I do not think so.
I wonder how he keeps his stuff. I mean, because I'm always called back to the little stage thing they did where it was George R. R. Martin and King, and they were both on stage. Mm-hmm. People got to ask questions, and they asked each other questions. And when Martin asked King, like, how do you just spit out books? It takes me forever to finish one, not just by volume, but by always doubting yourself and doing whatever.
Right.
And King's response is essentially just do it. Like a Nike slogan. Just do it, man. Sit down and write the book. What's your problem, man? Write it and then release it. And so I imagine that must be, if any name, I imagine either that his editor, whoever gets to go through all this work, must be who does the real work, because he just splurges stuff out on the page and they get it and they're like, all right, well, the Jimmy character has his last name changed 4 times throughout King's work because he forgot the name, so I'm going to go back and go and do that.
I'm super curious, yeah. I don't know, man. Okay, so let us introduce the next book. I was going to do like a drum roll, but like this isn't a surprise. We've been talking about this one. Our next one, the one after this one, is going to be a surprise.
Oh yeah.
So because we haven't picked yet.
These were the 3 fixed ones because they were the first 3.
Because the next one in publishing order would have been this. It, I believe. I think It was next. It's either It or The Stand.
Yeah, one of those two.
And I want to do The Stand someday, but
yeah.
I don't.
I think it might have been The Stand actually, because I think that's why we were inclined to stop at 3.
But yeah, that'll be like a huge chunk of the year.
Because Stand's also like an ending book, and that'd be weird to get to that so quickly.
Yeah, and it's just big.
Yeah.
But we are doing The Shining. I'm gonna read the back. I picked it up the other day. We don't have an author photo on the front or the back, but we do have one inside. Don't worry, it's that same lean.
The one where it looks like the thing he has to
seducing.
The thing where it looks like the thing he's leaning his arm on is too far away.
Yeah.
And they won't move it closer to him, so he has to really lean out.
Yep. But this is the one that has the promo for Dr. Sleep in it. So, the recent prem. Jack Torrance's new job at the Overlook Hotel. Am I doing this? Fuck it. I'll do it. Is the perfect... I'm just going to read the whole book. Like, that's the rest of this. We'll just sit here and read. But yeah, I want to point out that Danny Torrance is the kid's name.
Uh-huh.
So, I think Danny goes from being one of our main... antagonist to one of our main protagonists.
He is the kid vampire.
Yep.
Now Danny is the shining kid.
Did we have a Jack? I don't think we had a Jack in
I don't think
Salem
so.
slot. I wonder if we're gonna have a Sue.
What is his wife's
Dude,
name?
if we have a Sue here,
what
you're
is
gonna
Jack's
feel.
wife's name? I always forget.
I don't remember. Let's see if I can find out.
I just thought of it and then it left my mind.
The first name I saw was Tony, so I'm not sure. But the first line of this book is Jack Torrance thought. Officious little prick. Look at me good.
Well, my understanding is that Jack is just a a sweetheart in the show, if I remember correctly.
Just a lovable little guy.
Yeah.
I can't wait to put him on my team.
Yeah.
If there's a Sue in this book, you're gonna be kicking yourself in the ass for not having a 3-star Sue. I'm just saying. I don't carry you real far this early in the game.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a week off, like we're traditionally, once.
For once. Yeah.
Do between seasons. And when we come back, we're going to be doing up through through the end of chapter 10.
Yeah.
It's like 112 pages.
Yeah, that works.
So yeah, this one, by the way, as long as I'm not missing something, doesn't seem to have sections or parts. It's just chapters. I think it's 53 chapters.
That'll be nicer, and I suspect it'll also just be nicer to read.
Yep.
This should be a much more positive experience. The Salem's Lot, we sounded a little bummed, but I have a good feeling about The Shining.
I'd like to point out also
we're getting back to the stuff that he does pretty well.
Something else we have not gotten before: no prologue. It jumps straight in. So
this might be the first real book, I guess.
I'm excited. Anything else before we wrap this up?
No, that's it. That's pretty much it.
Feel an orange?
Nah, I'm good.
Okay, last time I get to make it, I'm gonna drop this joke for next season. So
it's a shame there wasn't some orange reference in Salem's Lot too. I've kind of played that along with.
I should have been offering you white roses.
That's it.
That'd have been somehow weirder. Just like every time you come home from recording, your girlfriend's like, Alex, why do you have another white rose? Well, he keeps giving them to me. Okay, I guess until then, I've been... This book taught us anything is that names aren't important. And now you've sadly read the book. Yeah. That was the saddest yeah I've ever heard.
Hole in the Wall Book Club is a part of the Icynewyear Productions Network, and produced and edited by Anthony Sheets. The music in this episode is Supernatural Radio by Kevin MacLeod. There'll be a link to his license and website in the show notes. If you want to get a hold of us, tweet us at Icynewyear, or send an email to icynewyear@gmail.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to tell a friend, or leave us a review on your podcatcher of choice. Word of mouth and 5-star reviews really help us get out in front of more people, and let us expand and do more things. More information on the show can be found on icynewyear.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.